Hey gamers, this is Liz Davidson from Beyond Solitaire, and I am here with a very special guest, my friend Jason Perez from Every Night is Game Night, and we are going to sit here at home and rank the Oniverse games.
Yay, look at that. We're not talking about some history stuff, geeking out. And this is mainline gaming content. I can't wait.
Neither can I, actually. Like, these games have been in our lives for years. Mm-hmm. I've never actually tried to rank them, so this will be an exciting experience. I'm really curious about what you have to say, too.
I'm the host of Every Night is Game Night, and this was actually the first episode I did with Anthony Chatfield 3 years ago when the podcast was called Table for One. It was Anthony's podcast, and then I came in like Darth Vader and just took it over. But this was the first episode. We ranked, at the time there were 3 Oniverse games. We had not played Beyond, so we didn't rank that one. But that was the first. That was our first stab at a review, and I listened back to it now, and it's like, oh man, you're a lot better at this now. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, some of my earliest YouTube playthroughs are Onirim and Sylveon, and I look back and I'm like, ooh, that was an old camera. Ooh, I didn't have a mic. Like,
look how we've grown.
We have, and these games have grown with us. Like, I feel like the Oniverse it's just a set of solo classics, you know? Sure. I think anybody who's a serious solo gamer will have one of these cross their table at some point.
Each game is crafted. I think that's probably the best way to put these. You know, like, you can really kind of pound out some games, and especially within the concept where each game is kind of, you know, there's the tile laying game, and there's the dice game, and there's this game, you know, it kind of fits in lanes. Mm-hmm. And it'd probably be easy to just say, okay, you know, check boxes, so to speak. But I definitely don't get the sense here. Like, each of these games is just crafted for the, you know, as good an experience as Shadi Torbay could get out of these games.
Yeah.
We ranked number 6, and my lowest is ranked at 7.5.
Yeah, so. Actually, I also wanted to say before we start this list, like, we're ranking games that I really like. Right. I have all these games. I think they're all keepers. I really enjoy them. I have no intention of trading any of them off, and you know, so this is all of these rankings are coming from a place of love, even in last place for me.
7.5 is the lowest, and it only goes up from there. So,
indeed, it's a great series. So, without further ado, you're the guest. What is your number 6?
Ladies
6
first. I'm going to go with ladies first over there. Go ahead. Hit me with your number 6.
Well, my number 6, since you're making me go first, is Castellion.
Ladies first.
Castellion is my number 6. I like it, but it's not my favorite. Obviously, because it's number 6. So for those of you who don't know, Castellion is the tile-laying game in the series. You're basically trying to build a castle and put different formations of tiles inside of the castle to defend it from oncoming invaders. There are traders in your tile pile that act as a timer for the game. And once you draw too many of them, you have to face your ordeal. And if you haven't built things up correctly, then you're screwed. Is that about right?
That's basically it.
So the reason it did not make first for me is that I like it, but I feel like there are rules ambiguities in it that make it annoying, especially with what tiles can go next to each other, but ways you can break the rules. And also because the timer, you can never see it coming, you don't know. I mean, sometimes it feels like the game ends a little prematurely. Mm-hmm. If you just draw badly. I mean, it's fine. I still really enjoy it. I get a kick out of playing it. I posted a playthrough this past week. So it's not a deal breaker. Just not my favorite.
Right. It is later on my list. This is a really awkward list to do because we're ranking the same games.
Yeah.
So when we talk about it and everything, but I will say, I will hold my tongue because it is later on the list. So
all right. So what's your number 6?
Right, my number 6 is Nautilion.
Ooh.
So Nautilion is the roll and move version. I remember reading the designer diary on BGG where Shadi really wanted to take on the challenge of doing a roll and move game. It's like this malign mechanism. This is, you know, something that you never want to see in your game. So it's like, you're going to solo game with this stuff right here. So how he did it was it's roll and move, but it's like roll and then think a lot. And then move. Roll, and then like, okay, I'm going to think for a couple of minutes and assign stuff. And then you can execute your movement. So there, good on you, buddy. Again, this is a 7.5 for me. I was actually lower because when you first suggested this, I'm like, okay, a chance to play them all again. So it was a little bit lower, but then I played it again, and I'm like, man, this is good. I could
It
happily play
really
this every
is.
time.
Yeah.
My hang up on it, what the reason why it's number 6 is, of all the games, of all the Oniverse games, Nautilion is the only game where pretty much all of the information is like face up in front of you. So you have all of the tiles, and you kind of loop them around, and you can make a swirl or make a little whatever. But it's 36 tiles if you play the base game, and if you play the expansions, you get more tiles. Which I always do. Always mixing expansions, because that's what makes these games really good, a cut above the rest. And as opposed to the other games where like everything's like a face down deck, you turn, or like a face down pile of tiles, and you turn stuff. Here, everything's in front of you, so it creates this kind of like mental overload, at least for me, that like it makes it a little bit more thinky than I want in kind of a breezy, casual, but yet strategic game. This one feels a little bit more thinky than that, and I understand that that's what makes it an attractive version. I think Morten Monrad Pedersen, this is his favorite game, and probably for that reason, because it's the thinkiest. I feel like it just gives me a little bit too much info at once, where it's like, oh, I'm going to land on this 2. There's 3 2s along the path, so I better make sure that I can do this one, but then there's only 6. I already lost all my 4s, and it's like, I haven't even moved. And like I have kind of fat fingers, so like laying out the trail of tokens and then flipping them over if I want to play again.
Okay, so that is a complaint that I share. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a little bit fiddly on that, and when I want to play a solo game, any solo game, not just an Oniverse game, I want to play it again and again and again, just to kind of like, justify the time on the table. So Nautilion is the hardest one to do that. These are minor. One of these is like a style preference thing. One of them is just, I have very kind of clumsy hands thing. Still an excellent game. And the expansions are okay. The expansions, I don't know that any of these are kind of a feature. I do like to shuffle them in. But as opposed to the other games where the expansions are like, wow, can't miss them, the expansions here are okay. So for these very niggling reasons, I have put Nautilion as my number 6.
That's fair. So moving on to number 5, since it makes sense. Hey, Harley. My number 5...
Hey, buddy.
So my number 5 is actually Nautilion. So that was my second class. So again, like, I actually hate the setup because it's annoying, yes, but also like, so as you move through the game, you pick up all those pieces. So if you make it too swirly, or you put the parts of the pathway too close together, I start like getting lost in my own pathway. Because so basically in Nautilion, for those of you who don't know, your ship and then an evil ship are like moving towards each other's home bases. And so you roll 3 dice, and you have to assign 1 die to yourself, 1 die to the bad ship, and then 1 die to what's called the dark house. And depending on the value that you assign it, it can like take things away from you in the game. So as you go, both you and the evil ship are like eating up tokens in the pathway that you've set out, so it gets more gaps as you travel. And for me, that becomes visually confusing. And I also just don't like setting it up. But I actually really like the game. I like thinking about it. And I actually thought the expansions are pretty good. There's several different ships that you can try that have different configurations of crew. So like even within just a version of the base game, you can try different stuff. But I also really love... I actually really like the... what's it called? The Mercenaries expansion, where like you have a ship battle partway through. I thought that was really good. There's a couple of really neat things. But... it's just not my favorite. I like it, but it's not my favorite.
I will play it. I definitely it went higher in my ranking when I replayed it. I think I was very focused, because I remember doing the review on Every Night is Game Night with Anthony, and I remember being very focused on that fiddly part. Yeah. It's a very hard game to set up, and for whatever reason, I was thinking about that at the time. Just laying it out again though, and playing it, I didn't mind that so much.
Yeah, it's fun.
The fun was there,
and sometimes I'm in the mood for it.
Right,
that's where I'm at.
Yeah.
What was your number 5?
All right, so number 5 was the reason why this list is coming on now, because I hadn't played it, and I never really got into it because it was out of print, it was hard to find. But because we are doing these top 6 Oniverse games, I sought out a copy, I traded for one, and it is Beyond. So Beyond. The solitaire card game. It is only cards. I think this was this before Onirim?
No, I think it's the second in the series. I think Onirim is the first, and then Urbion / Equilibrion, it was originally published as Equilibrion, is the second.
Right.
Yeah.
So then I feel like Equilibrion is more of an apt descriptor for what this game is all about.
Yeah.
And I understand why you didn't want to call it Equilibrion. It's kind of a mouthful. But I think my favorite part of Urbion, and I was really happy to get this down. So like what you're doing is you're playing. You have a deck of cards. The deck of cards represent two factions. I think it's the Ikube and the Sogne.
Yeah, I just call them like the cats and the bear ones. Like, you know, like, just different animals. I don't know. There's like the cats and spiders side, and then there's like the cute little bears and birds and fish side. You know, it's like, I don't know.
Total art critics over here. I guess we could comment on the art at some point, but that's like one of the distinguishing features. But at least in this particular game, Urbion, so you have the two sides, and it's a deck full of cards that represent either of the two sides. So you're playing them to either side of this like central row. The central row is the city, so Urbion. And you're playing them in such a way where you have to kind of achieve balance. So like you have, -2 on one side, and then -1. So you're looking for the -3 to put there. You're drawing one card at a time. You kind of have to figure out that balance. There are chaos cards that kind of throw the balance off. So you're playing one card at a time. You're trying to make sure you're kind of keeping things in balance. That's cool enough. But I think the spice in the meatball that kind of takes this a cut above some other cards, besides the kind of equilibrium seeking, is that push your luck mechanism.
Yes.
Where you don't just want to do go a couple of rows and just like claim them and then keep playing. You get a bonus for establishing balance in all 4 rows. So like you have 3. And you're looking at your deck going, if I can pull something right, then I can really achieve that balance. But I might get a chaos card, which might just completely blow up my my stuff. So you kind of like weighing back and forth to get that tension. And it's so funny how like a regular old card game, which has a neat hook, gets bumped up another level by one simple addition, that little push your luck aspect, which I really appreciated about Urbion. It is number 5, though. I guess my only thing about Urbion is I have a lot of card games. I have a lot of card games. I mean, if you see my games over here, this is a fraction. And I have all of my entire deck of my entire like Shovel Solo games is over there. A lot of little boxes. Does this game really rise above? I mean, is it the best card game in the universe? No. Obviously, because I have it ranked lower than the other one. Is it better than some of the other solo games that I've played? I have a lot of solo games. I have a lot of card games. So I guess, I like the fact that I have this little bit of a different wrinkle. Is that wrinkle enough to take it kind of to that next level, that 8 range or that 9 range? It depends. You get in some frustrating draws where it's like you kind of have no chance. And there's a couple of things you kind of get that happened there. Again, and this is another one where I didn't love the expansions, especially the meta cards. The meta cards, you have to remember what they are, and they're kind of like off to the side. Yeah. I think when it comes to Oniverse expansions, the best expansions are ones that shuffle into the main experience rather than just like hang on the side. Yeah. Some of them do and generate extra rules, and the main Urbion expansion is a bunch of extra cards on the side. So I wasn't excited by that either. So good game. Really glad thank you for making me acquire it. It will be in my collection. It's just in terms of ranking it, that's where I kind of made it land on number 5. Just so minor nickel. So that's Urbion.
Well, what's really interesting is that I feel like our lists are one off because my number 4 is Urbion. Which cool. Really interesting. But I really like it. I do. I think it's really fun. But I do think that there are too many situations where you just can't win. And especially if you get used to the deck and you start counting the cards, it becomes more and more obvious when that's going to happen, and you can get kind of frustrated. The other thing, so I like the art in the Oniverse series. So this is not any slag on the art, but I think graphically, Urbion is the hardest one to look at. All the element symbols that you're matching to cities are easy to kind of miss against the backdrop of all that colorful art. It just isn't as elegantly designed. It's not even the art. It's the graphic design of the cards. It's not as well done, in my opinion, as the other Oniverse games. I do like it. among solo card games. It's not one that I'm going to trade off. I like it better than play games that I've played this year or in the past few years, but it's not like, oh, you must have it or else your life is incomplete, like sort of game. And right. I think actually it's important to say that because it's out of print. So I think a lot of it's actually getting more expensive too. Like I bought it. I have one with like French rules that I got for like maybe $35.
Oh no.
Like I don't feel guilty about that. Like I'm a solo reviewer, is what you do, you know. But you know, I was looking for it. It was like $145. It was like the lowest price I could find. Like when I was just goofing around the internet last week, and I'm sure there are lower prices, but holy crap, that's too expensive for what this is. Don't fall into the FOMO trap and like pay too much for Urbion.
I traded for mine. One man's. There's a lot of people out there that don't know what they have.
So you took advantage of some poor schmuck, Jason.
Poor schmuck.
How could you? How could you?
Although I did trade Obsession for it, so I did give up a good game for Urbion and something else because I am getting the second edition of Obsession. Sorry, first edition. Oh, okay, Urbion. Woo.
That's fair. That's fair. I'm actually trading my first edition of Obsession for something else. So.
Right. Yeah. That's the way to do it. I mean, do you want to comment about the art now since it's kind of coming up?
Yeah.
So yeah, why not?
Let's do it.
I mean, so I think you touched on the main negative of the art, which is it can create confusion depending on the game. It's not always obvious what is actually being represented. So, the Incubate and the Songay, I think their color, their tones are a little bit they're different, so you can tell them that way, but really, I mean, it's and the way that it interacts with the graphic design elements. So, like, I mean, I think a game that we're going to be reviewing in a little bit, or talk about a little bit, is worse with this. But because it depends on how much symbology is on the cards.
Yeah.
But it really does mess with if the game relies on a lot of symbology, the art style messes with it. And some of the games, it felt like they were crafted with that in mind. So, it doesn't seem like it's a problem at all. Some of them not so much, and I think Urbion falls into the trap of, like, some of this stuff is getting in the way, and causing a little bit of a record scratch moment. The good part, it is relaxing. It just puts me in a nice, calm, dreamscape headspace. You could tell, like, the Incubate and the Songay, whether it's the cards or the little meeple guys, they persist over, so it's a sense of a world. And if I want to play a solo game and I want to relax, if I'm playing Friday and I'm like trying to survive and struggle and all that kind of stuff, or if I'm, playing Race for the Galaxy, it's all this space nonsense and everything. This is just like, okay, I am in a nice, relaxing space right now. I don't know exactly what's going on, but that's the point. I'm not supposed to know what's going on. And I don't need to. I can let my ego go. My grasping brain just like, all right, I'm just going to sink into something for a little while. So I really appreciate that. I actually do find the art aesthetically pleasing. I enjoy it. The other thing that's really neat about it is that every game in the Oniverse has its own way of playing, but the art really does have a way of driving home to you that they're all placed in the same universe. You'll see different sort of characters or images appear from game to game. And there's something really nice about that. Little callbacks to other games, little connections between games that maybe you didn't notice before. It really pulls the whole series together in a way that is very pleasing. I like it a lot. Right. I mean, at the end of the day, it's completely a draw. And I know some people kind of get, I don't want to play this because I don't know what the heck's going on. It's getting in the way of my graphic design, or I just think it's ugly, or I just think it's like fuzzy, or something like that. Nuts to you.
So, what was your number 4?
All right. So my number 4, I have a feeling that we are going to be one off on this one. So my number 4 is Sylveon. So Sylveon is maybe not. So Sylveon is the tower defense card-based game. So you have 4 decks of fire cards, basically. I'm not exactly sure what they're called. The Ravage or something. Or the Pawn is the Ravage, and I forget what the fire enemies are called. You have 4 decks of them, and every turn you could be revealing 4 of the top of those 4 decks, and they're going to be kind of Plants vs. Zombie style, moving along a grid towards your trees. And if they make it to the trees, they're going to set fire to the forest, and then, you lose. Right, but you have cards. You have your own, resources that you're going to play. So you have fountains, which block. You have trees, which provide water for the trees in case they get burned. You have powers, like the whale and the you could really do a lot of manipulation. It really is Plants vs Zombies.
Also, this is absolutely a game about forest fires that has whale friends in it, which I personally am in favor.
And elephants and all these things.
It's the Oniverse. It's dreams. Anything could be in the forest. It's fine. Just go with it.
In the more advanced game, which is don't play the beginner game unless you really have no idea what you're doing.
Yeah, just skip it.
But the more advanced game, you have this draft at the beginning, so you can kind of craft your deck at the beginning, which is a feature. Definitely. If you want to try different strategies, like I remember one time it's like I'm going to draft all the doves, and just the doves make you discard one of the fire cards. So I'm just going to draft lots of doves and just like murder the fire deck, which is a completely different strategy than some of the other ones.
Yeah.
So that's fun. That's cool. The reason why it's number 4 and it's a 7.5. Again, these are all 7.5 for me. What takes it down from an 8, and I love playing this game. The one thing that kind of held it back from an 8 or higher rating is, despite this flexibility and strategy, I find that at the end of the day, I follow the same strategy. Their fountain cards, like the 4-string fountain cards, which is the most powerful card you can kind of put. It stays there. You just put it there. I'll put a couple there, and I think kind of game over.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I can funnel most of the fire cards into my main fountain, my main defense, basically. And there's so many ways in which I can okay, I'm gonna set fire to this thing. I'm gonna manipulate this fire to kind of land over here. And I don't know, I just feel like even if I tried a different strategies, and there's that expansion where you can give you different victory conditions.
Yes, which I actually really enjoy.
I enjoy that, but I'm trying to make the game harder. I might as well just put some 4 fountains down and win. And those are really, really hard to get. You have to construct your deck a certain way. So I wish I win a lot, and I don't want to. I don't want to win these games a lot. I want to have that little frustrating experience. And so because I win a lot, because because of the strategies kind of calling.
Yeah.
It's and this is a game, speaking of the expansions, I do not play unless I've shuffled everything together. I don't know how you feel, but that basic game, it's okay, but if I shuffle everything together a little bit longer, but I think it's worth it for the extra little bit of challenge, but I still win. I don't want to win all the time. And I'm not doing the hard mode. I'm not drawing less cards. None of that. I am not tying one hand behind my back to make a game harder. There's no way. But that's my only thing. And I know people have a different experience of Sylveon, and maybe it's a little bit harder for them. I don't know. Just play the 4 fountain and just win. That's it. So is your number 3 Sylveon?
It is not. Oh no. So my number 3 is actually Arion.
Okay.
I like it. I really like Arion. It's very fun. But I typically prefer sort of card-based games over dice-based games anyway. It just wasn't going to be the one for me. Does that make sense? But I like Arion a lot. So in Arion, for those of you who don't know, you are trying to build a bunch of different airships. And for each airship, you need a blueprint, a material, and a crew member. You can only recruit the crew member after you've already got your blueprint and your material. And you are rolling combinations of dice, or trying to, in order to acquire the right cards. So if you can't acquire a card, you have to sacrifice cards that are out on the market in order to re-roll and try again. Those cards, however, also act as your timer. So when you run out of cards and you aren't rolling what you need to roll, then you can lose the game by running out of time and not getting things rolled correctly. So some of it's, thinking about, okay, what dice do I want to keep? What cards have already gone by that I know I don't need? What can I safely sacrifice? And you have to make those choices and have those thoughts, which I really enjoy. But also, sometimes I roll really hot. Sometimes I don't. I really don't.
Right.
And it's I caught a really good play on film which I was grateful for my YouTube channel. But like the warm up play was horrible. Like you just don't know. And my actual complaint about Arion, though, because it goes by so fast, like who cares if you get unlucky? It's just a dice game. It's no big deal. Is that I mix up the iconography all the time. Like I get confused about whether like I've got the right things. Because it's not that it's unclear if you know what you're looking at. It's just that somehow your eyes aren't drawn to the things that you need to know, and you have to keep checking yourself and thinking about it. Like
there is too much information on the cards. Like the back of the cards has materials that appear in the deck. I don't need that. I can either remember, or you can put that to the side, or like there's the different games have player rates. Like okay, there's this many suns and Onirim, or there's this many whatchamacallit, the missionaries in Altilion. I don't have to be reminded of that in the midst of my game. But for whatever reason, Arion just puts so much graphical information on both sides of the card. It's the game that I was thinking of when talking about the interaction between the graphic design and the iconography with the art, and that one becomes really, really tough. Not really sure why they went that direction.
I can't disagree. Like I like knowing what's in the decks, but some of the cards, especially I think it's like, is it the material cards or the crew cards? Basically, they'll tell you information about two different kinds of ships that card might belong to.
Ugh.
Or like there's two different things that it could need, and it's like, why are you showing me this? Oh my god, like I can't keep track of this. This is like, why are you giving me this? It's like actually extraneous.
And I don't need to know. Right. It's easy enough to either look at a reference or keep track of in your head if you play enough.
Yeah, I can't disagree.
Not my number 3.
Ooh, what's your number 3?
Not my number 3. So we have arrived at Castellion. You're number 6.
Okay.
My number 3. This one cracks the 8 barrier for me. I really, really like Castellion. I'm not a tile-laying guy. I'm not. I will carcass over.
Some tiles come up. Like you weren't supposed to eat them, Jason.
Oh my god. Wow. Anyway, I'm not normally a tile laying person. I kind of am because I think the act of tile laying is fun, but I just, any tile laying game that has like victory points, I just don't like it because you have to score adjacencies and you're thinking of 7 things. I feel like my head gets filled very, very fast when it comes to a tile laying game that has like point scoring, because there's always like 7 different categories to keep in mind. I don't like that. So this one is just, you're meeting criteria, and I always play on hard mode. I always play on, like, there's that easy, the middle, and the hard mode. I always play on hard mode.
Yeah.
So that's number 1. And I think that's fun because you have to make the different formations. You have to make, and you don't know. So, like, you make the cards, you make a tower, you reveal it, which is 4 tiles straight up of the same thing, and the same family, and then you see what it is. Okay, I need this. I'm going to make my tower again. The Protean Tower, I call it. The tower that's always changing. It just feels very organic. So I don't have the same problem you did. Maybe that's where we differ.
Yeah.
Of how the rules work. I just kind of get it for whatever reason. And it makes sense. So it's like I play a red bomb and I destroy one and I move one. And the move doesn't have to follow a rule. So I just remember that for whatever reason, because I like forming and reforming. It has a little bit of a sim feel because I could play and make it look how I want to. I can make if once I know the rules and what I have to accomplish, I feel very smart in that. Okay, I'm going to do 3 horizontal lines. I'm just going to do all squares because I don't care what the features say. If I make all the squares, I'm going to win anyway. I really, really love it. I didn't every time I play it, because I play it like once a year, especially for this playthrough, I just go back to it. It just makes me feel good. I really dig it, and especially with the powers.
The powers are way cool.
Rules. This is another game where the expansions are kind of a waste of time. I just play with the base stuff.
Yeah.
The expansion, so like the Shadow Menace is basically, it's another little area where you have to like kind of put more tiles. Yeah. It's just basically like throw out a tile. And I kind of do have the rules bend a little bit, because if you get the enemy pieces, the time pieces that you can't get rid of, if you get 2 of them early, you're done. So it's like, I'm just gonna, for my first game, I'll reshuffle those. Like so little changes like that. But even with that, I just love the activity of the reforming the castle, and like kind of molding it depending on what goals I have to achieve. Really, really dig it. So Castellion, good stuff. Number 3.
It's a good pick. I mean, it is a good game. My only problem is I have like little mini panic attacks, like when I like look down and it's like things are misplaced and they were put together in the wrong way, and I'm like, wait, it's wrong, did I do it wrong? And I'm like, wait, no, I shifted that was legal, it was okay.
Right. Oh, and the co-op version. So all these games play co-op.
Yeah, I've never bothered.
Fine,
ever.
I think they're all okay. Like okay as co-ops, they kind of don't differ. This is the only one where the co-op really just stinks. So because you basically have to make 2 castles, and there aren't enough tiles for that.
Yeah.
So it ends up being like one person makes a castle and the other person absorbs all the bad tiles, and then once the condition is met, then the other person starts to work on the condition, and then the first guy absorbs all the crappy tiles. They get their castle destroyed. It's like there's always a case in which one person's absorbing all the bad stuff, and that's not good co-op stuff. Play it at all.
Yeah.
So this is a solo game. Do not play with the expansion. Not bother with the expansions, in my opinion. But I love me some tile laning. It doesn't have any point scoring. Beautiful stuff.
Nice. All right, so number 2. So my number 2 is Sylveon, which I adore. I absolutely adore Sylveon. I love all the different animal cards. I like all the different powers. I like trying to get the cards to work in combo. Like I think it's the squirrels that let you peek, and then the doves that let you eliminate all those cards, and like they work really nice together.
Yep.
But I have the same problem as you, which is that the difficulty levels in the game aren't balanced enough for me. It's either too easy once you know what you're doing, or if you make it hard for yourself, it's like blisteringly hard.
Right.
And it's like there's not a happy medium where you feel the right level of challenge but also satisfied. Like, I don't like to feel hamstrung. I like to feel like I'm doing cool stuff with my cards, but I also don't like pretty much knowing I'm going to win. Right. So,
yeah, I mean, I think we're on the same boat. I mean, the strategy is kind of easy. That just get those 4 fountains out there, and some of the cards just feel like unfair to play. Yeah. Like, or like, the one card that could just like destroy one of the 4 monsters. And it's like, oh wow, this barely didn't even cost me anything. Or it's, I don't know, like you mentioned before about combos, like some of them just come together and it's like, and plus the trees, I never play with the trees. Like, why?
No, you never do, because unless you plan on getting really burnt, it's like, you don't need them. Like if you're playing right, you don't need the trees.
If you're playing good, if you know what you're doing at all, you need the trees. So I love the core gameplay. Love. That's why it made it to number 4. Yeah. It's just that difficulty was
the gameplay of it. I just love the experience. I would really. I mean, I just wish it had the right difficulty level, because it's almost perfect for me. Almost, but not quite.
All right. So we are going to round out the shuffling.
Okay.
So to speak, of our places. And I'm going to talk about my number 2, which is Arion. So Arion hit number 2 for me because, and this is for a very particular reason. So all the stuff that Liz was saying is completely true about the dice rolling and all the fun of, that stuff. The core game isn't great. I think the core game is just like, kind of like, okay, just roll, and whatever the best roll is, just kind of do. Yeah. And it's challenging. It was actually more challenging than I remembered. I remember when I first played it, it was like, bang and bang. But when I played it recently, it was like, oh, this core game is pretty not as easy as I remember. But what I do, and I do not recommend people do this because I'm crazy and I have a lot of time in my hands, I shuffle together all the expansions. I shuffle together the flagship, the hourglass, the stonebirds, the piers, the hellkite. I'm like, I have this giant setup of 4 layers of cards, and then my dice trays over here, and it takes about an hour and 20 minutes to play, which is way too long. I don't recommend anybody do this.
And yet you love it.
However, it opens up a really rich decision space. So the way Oniverse Games expansions always work is that the expansion, you shuffle it in and it does a good thing and a bad thing. So, like, okay, you can play this card and it gives you this extra, like a wild card ability or an ability to reshuffle and look for your stuff. But I also have these other cards that kind of make it harder for me to win. So it's always something, a give and take. So it's the same thing as here. Each expansion adds a good thing and a bad thing. So when you roll, you have all of these options. And it's like, okay, I have 4 in a row. I can take this, or I can take this for the expansion, or I can, score the 26 because I have to, get rid of this one thing, or I can keep rolling because I need 5, and I'm going to take this. And I love that decision space. I love having so many options for what I can do in a turn. Arion, the base Arion, I found kind of railroads a little bit, which isn't the worst thing in the world. It's Yahtzee. At the end of the day.
Right.
But that larger decision space of the expansion shuffle together, and you don't have to do all of them, just do a couple. With a couple, you get enough spice to make it work. If you're going to shuffle in a couple, I do recommend the first 2, the flagship and the hourglass, is usually pretty good. So
I can't
simple. Like, if you don't want a lot of extra roll space, which I don't care about, I'll take cards all over the place. So that experience, even though I'm nuts to like a really long Arion, I love it. It's so good. So that was what vaulted it over the pack to my number 2 space, Arion.
Nice. Well, I know it's a big mystery what our number was. So
we did not confer about these ahead of time.
We did not. No, we didn't even talk about it.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, my favorite one is still Onirim. Is that how he says it?
Onirim, yes.
Onirim. I know it's the Oni because it's Oniron. It's like the Greek word for dream. But other than that, I don't know. French people. No, I'm kidding. I just can't pronounce it. My French is horrible. Quel horreur.
Right.
But so Onirim, it's just so good. I mean, it's not good in the sense that I can have this master strategy that's going to win. But it is so good for me in the sense that it's very relaxing. There are decisions to make, especially if you know how to count cards and you're kind of aware of what might be left in the deck, what you're risking, what you're giving up. But it's just such a calm game for a game that's about being trapped in a nightmare forever,
Mm-hmm. Well, not forever. I mean, you get out. That's the whole point of it, right?
Well, yeah, but not if you lose. Not if you lose.
Okay, well, you just get sent. It's like a video game. You get sent back to start.
Right. No, but it's very relaxing. I really like it. So, for those of you who have not played Onirim, if you're a solo gamer and you have not played Onirim, just go download the app. It's cheap. Try it.
Just do it.
There's no reason not to do it. But, I mean, you're really just laying down cards in a row. You're trying to alternate symbols, but get the same colors in a row, because if you get 3 colors in a row, you open doors. If you open all the doors, you get out. It's very simple. But there are nightmare cards in there that come and take stuff away from you. So you either have to sacrifice your hand, and if you run out of your deck, you're out of time. You can sacrifice cards at the top of the deck, or you can undo progress by giving up some of the doors that you've opened. So none of your choices are good. There's some things that you can do to mitigate those nightmare cards, but they're going to come and mess with you. And that's really it. It's like the most chill, small footprint, nice little card game, and I will never get rid of it ever.
Right. I think the secret to the base game being so good is the key. Mm-hmm. How the key is so flexible and so powerful, and when you get one, you get kind of excited. It's like, okay, that's a real choice. You haven't even done anything. You just have the key. It's like, okay, am I going to dump this, hunt it down one of the nightmare cards, or am I going to keep it and do the push your luck thing where it's like, I might draw the door that matches the key, which is like a really win. It's not like an auto win the game, but it's like, wow, I'm way ahead of the curve. In terms of what I can do with these things. Or you can just use the key to finish one of your sets, where it's like, oh man, I really need to finish this set now, but this key's too valuable.
Right.
So for whatever reason, like so much of the decision space is funneled down to that one card.
So you mean the key to enjoying the game is handling your key symbol really well. Yeah.
Oh, it's not even a pun.
I make bad jokes. What can I say?
That's a terrible joke.
I'm no shame. I'm a classroom teacher. Like, I just... I spout out groaners like all day, every day. Like,
wow. So that's the base game, and it's very calming, very relaxing. I mean, it's one of those games that you could just play in 5 minutes. If you have the app, you play it in 1 minute. People complain about the shuffling. Yes, the shuffling is a big problem in the physical game. If you play a lot, you have to sleeve them.
Yeah.
You have to sleeve the cards, which makes it not fit into the box, which is annoying. But yeah, whatever. So I remember I had my sleeve for a long time until I got the app. It's like, okay, I'm gonna play this now.
Yeah. Although I actually like the tactile feeling of shuffling cards. It's especially if I'm feeling if I'm having like a high anxiety night and I want to play something to chill out. I actually really like Oniverse because of the card shuffling.
Right.
Because it's like an action I can do with my hands when I'm feeling kind of fidgety.
I definitely see that. It's just a lot. Like, you end up shuffling about 9-10 times.
Yeah.
That's a lot for a deck to take.
But if you don't want to do it, then you either sleeve it or get an app. See? Right. All the problems are solved.
There it is. So then there's that, and but I don't think it would be my favorite game of the Oniverse with just the base game. It's good as the base game.
It's good.
The expansions, modular, you add them in, they add enough flavor, just like with the different other expansions. So you could do that in the app too. Like there's 3 of them, and then I forgot the other 4, which makes me really mad.
Yeah, that's lame. Yes.
Totally lame. Should have been on that. So it's another game in which I play the Shuffle Together 7 expansion epic, whatever it is. It's huge on my table. It takes up an entire card table with the dream catchers and the whatever it says the meta rules.
Yeah.
Thing. You know, there's a whole bunch of things that are going on with that, and it's actually not as much shuffling because the dream catchers catch a lot of the cards.
Yeah.
So it's not as bad to shuffle that big old deck, but oh man, it's so much fun. In a weird way, I feel like I'm going on an adventure. Yeah. So I begin, and I'm starting, and I'm very, meager and everything. But but the meta rules kind of hang over the early games. So you have to deal with the meta rules.
Yeah. And
then once you're through the meta rules, then you kind of decide what else you're going to do. So okay, I'm going to go on a run where I'm going to open up a bunch of doors now. Oh, the towers is in there. I have one tower. They're very vulnerable to nightmares. Now this is the part of the game where I'm going to complete my tower row. And, so I have these kind of moments, sections within my general journey through the Oniverse deck when I play the 7. And then by the end of it, I just feel so satisfied. Like, wow, I opened 13 doors and I met all these denizens and yes.
It's like the board game representation of sleeping for 12 hours straight.
I hadn't played it in a long because I got into Oniverse when I first was getting into gaming about 4 or 5 years ago, and I played the heck out of that big game. I had a weekend and I didn't have kids yet, so it's like I could play all I wanted. So thank you so much for inviting me to do this top 6 because it let me put that to the table again. I really wanted to play that in the app. It's not happening yet. Probably not happening at all. Otherwise, it would have happened by now.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's such a pleasure. And just even go back to the base game. Even scaling it back down, just quick 5 minutes and do it. So, Oniverse, no question, my number 1. Another Oniverse game, and I hope we get more.
Shadi Torbay. We need more. Give me more. I mean, I know that your first is my favorite, but I like the other ones. Don't stop.
It's definitely, when Z-Man got bought by Asmodee, it's kind of put that big question mark. It's are they going to follow through? Are they going to let you do your, thing as opposed to Z-Man with Zev that would have just published any of your silly games? Are we going to get to the 10? I remember hearing a rumor that you had 10 ideas in mind, not including Beyond, which I knew wasn't going to get reprinted unless your video for the Dice Tower inspires a fervor.
We'll see. Yes, look out for my Beyond review on Dice Tower, and I'm doing a playthrough for this channel as well because I feel like there should be more documentation of the game. I mean, but
it's part of the family. It's part of the family, even if it's run through the litter. It's part of the family.
It is, and I think one thing I really enjoyed about the process of playing back through these games to rank them with you is that I'm a game reviewer. I play a lot of games I don't necessarily like that much. I play a lot of games that I feel like I have to play. And it was just so nice to take a little tour back through games that I actually enjoy and spend that time with them. And I found it very renewing and pleasant. And, reminds me why I keep some of my old favorites around, even when I have a review copy pile that's huge and kind of freaking me out. So This is a good choice.
A good detour. So yeah, I mean, we definitely love these games, and maybe part of going to the ranking. I mean, ranking is just fun in general.
Yeah, it's just goofy. Yeah.
But part of it is, again, like Liz said, just kind of nice and relaxing, but maybe a little bit of a call to let's get some more. I mean, whatever gets made in this series, I'm going to play. I'm going to be front and center, buy a copy, and just bang it out. And a lot of them are hard to get now. I think one of them it's a hard thing to get sometimes. All of them. I mean, Castellion might be a little bit hard to get too, and some of the other ones. So I jump on them as soon as I see them, and I'm never going to give them up.
Yep.
So any future games, I promise, any future game we're going to release top 7 Oniverse games, we'll release top 8 Oniverse games video.
Why not? We could do. Eventually, it'll just be a top 10 if things actually come out the way they're supposed to.
Certainly hope so.
But yeah, thanks to everyone who's watching for joining us for our ranking of the Oniverse games. If you want to comment with your own opinions about Oniverse games, you know where to go. The comments below. And happy gaming.
Later, everybody.